September 14, 1942, 02:17 hours, North Atlantic, west of Ireland. The sea is black and restless, a low, oily swell rolling under a moonless sky. Inside the steel hull of U-558, the air is thick with diesel fumes, sweat, and anticipation. Red lamps glow dimly along the control room, painting every face in shades of blood and shadow. Men whisper without realizing it. No one wants to break the moment. Captain Lieutenant Gunther Kretsch stands at the periscope, one eye pressed to the rubber cup, jaw tight. He has been here before dozens of times, but the seconds before a confirmed hit never lose their edge. The Atlantic has taught him patience, then cruelty, then precision. Tonight, precision feels absolute. Through the glass, the freighter drifts across his viewfinder, a dark, blocky silhouette against darker water. An Allied merchantman, alone, no zigzag, no escort, just a slow, stubborn plod through enemy waters. You can almost feel the cold wind whipping across her deck, hear the slap of waves against rusted steel plates. Target angle steady, Kretsch murmurs. The latent engineer checks the torpedo data calculator. Numbers slide into place. Range, optimal, speed, predictable. The boat barely moves, engines throttled down to a whisper. Even the most talkative sailors have gone silent now. Somewhere forward, a torpedo rests in its tube like a coiled animal, waiting. Rower eins, fertig. The words land softly, but they carry weight. Ready. Kretsch takes a final breath. He does not rush. U-boat captains who rush die young. He waits for the freighter's bow to cross the final line etched into his mind. Then, lows. A sharp mechanical thump shudders through the boat as compressed air hurls the torpedo into the sea. Every man feels it in his bones. Somewhere outside, the weapon slices through black water, running straight and true. Second stretch, 10:15. Then the night explodes. A dull, massive crack rolls across the Atlantic, followed by a column of fire and debris rising from the freighter's midsection. The blast briefly lights the clouds from below, a hellish orange glow reflecting off the waves. Steel screams. You can almost hear it, even from inside the U-boat, the sound of a ship breaking its spine. Cheers erupt before Kretsch can stop them. Hit Volltreffer. Men clap each other on the shoulders. Someone laughs, sharp and relieved. Another crosses himself. Kretsch allows himself a thin smile but keeps his eye on the periscope. He watches the freighter list hard to port, flames licking up her superstructure. Lifeboats swing uselessly on davits, silhouetted against the fire. She's done, someone says behind him. It looks that way. The kill feels clean, professional, the kind Bijou loves to read about in the war diary. Kretsch lowers the periscope. Mark position, he orders calmly. Log the sinking. The Funkmart notes the coordinates, date, time. One Allied freighter removed from the war effort. Another line in the tonnage tally that Berlin will trumpet as proof the Atlantic is being strangled. The boat slips deeper, electric motors humming softly as U-558 glides away from the burning wreck. Standard procedure, you strike, you vanish. Survivors are not your concern. Escorts, if they come, will come fast. Down below, the mood shifts from tension to routine efficiency. Men wipe sweat from their faces. A thermos is passed around. Somewhere in the cramped forward compartment, someone hums a few bars of a song before being shushed. Kretsch studies the chart table. He considers his next move. The weather is favorable. Visibility is poor for aircraft. If they're lucky, they might find another straggler before dawn. Above them, the Atlantic closes in. But the freighter does not sink. Minutes pass, then more. The explosion has torn her open, gutted her cargo holds, but her engines, battered and wounded, refuse to die. Fire burns, water floods in, yet the hull clings stubbornly to buoyancy, riding low but alive. And deep within her radio room, amid smoke and falling debris, a wounded operator drags himself back to his set. His hands shake as he taps out the first signal. Position torpedoed, still afloat. The transmission cuts through the night, racing invisibly across hundreds of miles. Inside U-558, no one hears it. Kretsch orders the boat to a safer patrol depth and turns away from the periscope, convinced the engagement is over. The war diary entry is neat, confident, final. But somewhere above, the sea is carrying a message. And every dot and dash is a finger pointing straight back toward the hunter. The radio room aboard the freighter is chaos. Smoke hangs thick and acrid, stinging the eyes and burning the lungs. The deck slopes at a sickening angle, loose gear sliding toward the gaping wound torn into the hull. Somewhere aft, fire roars unchecked, feeding on paint, timber, and spilled fuel oil. The ship should be dying. Yet she refuses. Second Officer Thomas Hale braces himself against the bulkhead as another shudder runs through the hull. Every vibration feels final, like the last heartbeat of a wounded animal. He tastes blood in his mouth. He doesn't remember when his lips split, but his hands are steady now. They have to be. The radio set crackles weakly. Power is intermittent. The main generators are gone, but an emergency battery still breathes life into the transmitter. Barely. Hale wipes soot from the Morse key with his sleeve and leans in close, shielding it from falling debris. His headset hisses with static. Somewhere out there, the Atlantic listens. He begins again. Slash. Position, attack, status. The dots and dashes cut cleanly through the ether, leaping from antenna to sky, racing outward in widening circles. He sends the coordinates slowly, deliberately, repeating them twice. Accuracy matters more than speed now. A concussion rattles the compartment. A beam collapses behind him with a metallic crash. Hale flinches, then keeps tapping. "You stubborn bastard," he mutters, to the radio, to the ship, to himself. Above deck, crewmen fight a losing battle. Buckets of seawater against roaring flames. Orders shouted, contradicted, shouted again. Lifeboats lowered on one side only, the other already too high. Men argue whether to abandon ship or wait. Waiting feels insane. Leaving feels like surrender. But the freighter stays afloat, low, burning, alive. And Hale keeps transmitting. 200 miles away, in a dim operations room ashore, a duty officer freezes mid-step as the signal comes through. "Repeat that last," he says sharply. The radio operator complies. Coordinates scroll across the paper tape. A torpedoed freighter, still afloat. Repeated transmissions. No escort reported. The officer's expression hardens. This is not just a distress call, it's a gift. "Plot it," he orders. Pins stab into a North Atlantic chart. Lines are drawn, patterns emerge. The freighter's position sits uncomfortably close to a known U-boat transit lane, too close to be coincidence. "Get Coastal Command on the line," he says, "and notify Western approaches." Within minutes, the signal is moving again, this time inward, toward men whose job is to hunt what lurks beneath the waves. Inside U-558, the mood remains deceptively calm. The boat cruises at depth, electric motors murmuring, gauges steady, condensation drips from overhead pipes. The smell of oil and sweat is familiar, almost comforting. The watch rotates. Someone unwraps a piece of hard candy saved for moments like this. Kretsch studies the chart table again, pencil tapping lightly against the wood. He considers altering course slightly, perhaps circling back toward the last contact area at first light. Wrecks sometimes attract escorts late, but his instincts tell him the danger window has passed. He decides against it. "Maintain course," he says. "We'll surface after dawn." No one questions him. Above them, unseen, the freighter sends another transmission. Then another. Each one refines the picture. Each one tightens the noose. By mid-morning, the Atlantic looks deceptively peaceful. Low clouds smear the horizon. A weak sun glints off the waves, turning steel-gray water into sheets of dull silver. To an untrained eye, there is nothing here but emptiness. But now the emptiness is crowded with intent. A short Sunderland flying boat drones westward, its engines a distant growl. Farther south, A Catalina alters course mid-flight, its navigator recalculating fuel margins with a grim smile. On the surface, a pair of destroyers push hard through the swell, bows throwing white water as they race toward a set of numbers burned into every bridge officer's mind. Coordinates don't lie. They converge. At 09:42 hours, U-558 surfaces. The conning tower hatch swings open, letting in a rush of cold, clean air. Men climb out, blinking, stretching cramped limbs. Diesel engines cough to life, their noise startling after hours of submerged quiet. Kretsch steps onto the bridge and scans the horizon with binoculars. Gray sky, gray sea, nothing else. Too quiet. He lowers the glasses and listens. The engines feel louder than they should, exposed, vulnerable. A lookout stiffens. Aircraft port side. Kretsch snaps the binoculars up again. At first, he sees nothing, then a dark shape slips from cloud to sky, wings glinting faintly. Not one. Two. His stomach tightens. Alarm, he shouts, crash dive. The klaxon wails, men scramble below. The bridge empties in seconds as the boat begins to sink, bow dipping, stern lifting. Water pours over the deck. But the aircraft are already lining up. Depth charges tumble free, dark shapes falling toward the sea. Kretsch slams the hatch shut just as the first explosion detonates. The boat convulses violently, lights flickering, men thrown against bulkheads, tools crash to the deck, someone cries out in pain. And for the first time since leaving port, the crew of U-558 understands a terrible truth. They have not been hunting alone. The ship they thought was dead has been talking. And every word has led the enemy straight to them. The first depth charge goes off too close. The explosion slams into U-558 like a giant fist, crushing water against steel, steel against flesh. The lights die instantly, plunging the boat into near darkness. Emergency lamps flicker on, bathing the compartment in sickly yellow. Men are thrown from their feet. Someone's head cracks against a valve wheel. Another screams as hot steam hisses from a ruptured pipe. Report, Kretsch shouts, gripping the periscope stand to keep himself upright. Forward battery damaged. Starboard motor fluctuating. Depth control sluggish. The boat drops faster than intended, bow angling down as the planes struggle to bite. The depth gauge needle spins, 70 meters, 80-90. Blow negative tank, Kretsch orders. Compressed air roars as ballast is forced out. The descent slows, but the ocean feels heavier now, pressing in from all sides. You can almost feel the hull creak, every rivet complaining under the strain. Another explosion, closer. The sound is different underwater, less a bang than a massive, crushing thud that seems to come from everywhere at once. The deck plates ripple underfoot. Dust rains from the ceiling. The maskinist wipes blood from his eyebrow and forces his hands back to the controls. Panic is contagious in a submarine, so is discipline. The difference between the two decides who lives. Silent running, Kretsch commands, all non-essential equipment off. Engines are cut, fans die, the boat becomes a drifting coffin, suspended in black water. Even breathing seems too loud. Men cover coughing mouths with their sleeves, sweat beads on foreheads despite the cold. Above them, the hunters circle. On the surface, the aircraft commander watches the churned water with cold focus. The oil slick is faint, but it's there. More important, the sonar buoys dropped moments earlier are already singing. Contact confirmed, he says into the radio. Submerging target, marking for surface units. The message leaps outward, just like Hale's earlier distress call, except this one carries teeth. A destroyer alters course and increases speed. Another follows suit. Their screws thrash the sea, driving them toward the coordinates that refuse to let go of the U-boat beneath. Inside U-558, time stretches painfully. Minutes feel like hours. Each creak of the hull sounds like failure. Kretsch moves slowly through the control room, speaking quietly, forcing calm into every word. "We hold depth," he says. "They'll get bored, they always do." He doesn't fully believe it this time. The hydrophone operator suddenly stiffens, one hand pressed to his headset. "Propellers," he whispers, "fast, multiple." Kretsch closes his eyes for half a second. Aircraft are bad, destroyers are worse. Together, they are lethal. "Depth," he asks. 110 meters, holding. Another depth charge pattern erupts, not directly overhead, but closer than before. The enemy is adjusting, learning, walking the explosions inward, step by methodical step. A valve gives way with a sharp crack. Seawater sprays into the compartment. Men rush to clamp it shut, fingers numb, hands shaking. "Pressure hull integrity compromised," Kretsch demands. "Minor leak contained," comes the reply, "for now." Above them, a destroyer passes directly overhead. The sound is unmistakable, a grinding, thunderous roar as the screws churn water inches from the hull. Then the sonar ping begins. Ping! A metallic, echoing pulse slices through the boat. Every man hears it. Every man feels it. Ping! The sound bounces back, louder now, more certain. You can almost imagine the operator topside, watching the blip on his screen tighten into a perfect lock. Ping! Kretsch grips the chart table, knuckles white. There is no room left to hide. The ocean floor lies not far below, too shallow to dive deeper, too open to run. The freighter's coordinates have done their work. Another pattern of charges detonates, this one devastatingly precise. The stern lifts violently, the boat yaws hard to port. A battery cell ruptures, filling the compartment with acrid chlorine fumes. Men choke, eyes burning. "Masks," someone shouts. Kretsch knows what chlorine means: poison gas, death if it spreads. "Seal off battery compartment," he orders, all hands forward. Bulkheads slam shut. Men stumble through narrow passages, dragging the wounded, sealing hatches behind them. The air grows stale almost immediately. The depth gauge wavers, 112 meters, 115. The hull groans like a living thing. For a brief, terrifying moment, it feels like the sea itself is deciding whether to let them live. Then silence. No explosions, no pings, just the oppressive weight of the ocean and the rasp of frightened breathing. Kretsch listens, heart hammering. Has the destroyer overshot? Are they repositioning? The hydrophone operator tilts his head, straining. "Still there," he whispers, "circling. The trap hasn't sprung yet. It's tightening." And somewhere far above, the freighter, burned, broken, half-sunk, continues to exist just long enough to condemn the men who thought they had killed her. The silence is a lie. Underwater, U-558 drifts like a wounded predator. Every nerve is stretched taut. Men sit frozen at stations, hands gripping valves, eyes scanning instruments that glow faintly in red light. The boat shudders, as if testing them, the steel moaning under the invisible weight of hundreds of tons of Atlantic above. Kretsch leans against the periscope stand, even though he knows it is useless this deep. His mind races through scenarios, calculations, contingencies. Every attack he has survived before has felt like luck. This is something else entirely, something deliberate, precise, a hunter hunting him. "Depth," he asks again, voice quiet, almost detached. 117 meters. "Hull, stable for now," replies the Lufthansa engineer, though the word stable tastes bitter in his mouth. The first destroyer has circled, and his back, sonar pulses pinging steadily through the water like a heartbeat. Another is closing from the southeast, engines audible even in the thick water. The aircraft overhead have retreated to the cloud cover, but could dive at any moment. U-558 is trapped between sky and sea. A fresh pattern of depth charges descends. The first detonates too close, and the explosion sends a shockwave through the control room. Instruments swing wildly. Men are thrown off balance. The lights flicker and die. Emergency lamps click on. casting eerie shadows. You can hear your own heartbeat in the silence between the shudders. Crutch grits his teeth. He has trained for this, lived for this moment, but training cannot account for the precise intelligence that brought this trap together. Somewhere, miles away, the freighter's Morse code has turned the Atlantic into a giant snare. The hydrophone operator, white-faced and shaking, hears a new sound, different this time. Not the regular sonar pings, metallic scraping, directional, methodical. "Contact closing," he whispers. Crutch realizes immediately they are hunting from below as well as above. The destroyers have triangulated their position. There is no wiggle room, no clever evasive move left in their standard playbook. The freighter's signals have given the enemy both eyes and ears. The boat convulses again as another depth charge slams against the hull, closer this time. A section of pipe fractures, spraying scalding steam. Men yelp, pulling back instinctively. Crutch curses under his breath. He knows what's coming next. "Prepare for emergency dive to maximum depth," he orders, "and pray." The ballast tanks roar as compressed air hisses. The boat pitches downward, deeper than any previous attack. Water pressure crushes against the hull. Even steel feels malleable under the immense weight. Men struggle to maintain their positions. Instruments are distorted by the crush. Even breathing becomes a calculated risk, each inhalation a reminder that too deep, too long, and they will not return. Another series of explosions rock the boat in rapid succession. The hull groans, metal screeching. Saltwater sprays through hatches that don't seal properly. Electrical systems fail intermittently, lights flicker on and off. The air grows hotter and humid, thick with diesel, sweat, and fear. Through it all, Crutch does not move. His eyes, sharp and unblinking, are fixed on the depth gauge. Every reading feels like a countdown. 120, 122, 123 meters. The maximum safe depth is none. Any further, and the boat risks imploding. Yet the hunt doesn't stop. A sharp ping resonates from the hydrophone, a sonar operator's tone of perfect certainty. They are locked on. Another pattern of charges is dropped. One explodes directly above. Water compresses violently around the hull. The floor seems to shift beneath them. In the midst of chaos, a voice breaks from the forward compartment. "Damage report." The misgunnerst yells back, minor flooding in the aft compartments, battery venting, pressure rising. Crutch curses again. Every second counts. Every decision is a gamble between life and death. He knows the destroyers are feeding off the freighter's signals. Without them, this might have been routine, a kill, a patrol, and then another sortie. But those signals transformed a simple victory into a deadly maze. Above, the burning, torpedoed freighter rocks in the waves, still sending, faint, intermittent, but enough. Enough to keep the hunters circling, to keep the noose tightening. Somewhere in the mess, a sailor whispers, Did we really kill her?" Crutch doesn't answer. He can't. All he can do is feel the cold, relentless embrace of the Atlantic, listen to the steel creak, and wait for the next strike. And he knows with sick certainty that the freighter has become more than a victim. She has become a weapon. Hours pass like minutes, each one heavier than the last. The Atlantic above is deceptively calm, a gray sheet under a low-hanging sky, betraying nothing of the chaos below. Inside U-558, every man is a ghost of himself, bloodied, soot-streaked, exhausted, yet hyper-aware of the ocean pressing in from all sides. Crutch moves slowly through the control room, checking gauges, listening to the subtle groans of the hull. The boat shudders with every distant explosion above. He knows their position is compromised. Every signal sent from the freighter has guided the enemy like a beacon. It isn't luck. It isn't coincidence. It's intelligence in motion, precise, patient, merciless. "Status," he asks, voice low but sharp. "Fires still burning aft, flooding stable, depth, approaching 125 meters, reports the latender engineer. 125 meters, too deep for comfort. The U-boat's design limit is near. One more wrong move, one too close explosion, and the pressure will crush them. Steel will bend, rivets will pop. They will not escape. Then the hydrophone operator stiffens, hand frozen over the headset. Multiple contacts, converging, bearing changing fast. Kretsch narrows his eyes. He leans closer to the instrument panel. The destroyers are coordinating. They've learned his pattern, his depth, his speed. Every escape route he considered moments ago is blocked. The net tightens. The freighter, the one they thought dead, is the architect of this trap. A new series of depth charges explodes directly above, violent enough to knock men to the deck. Water sprays through poorly sealed hatches. The boat lurches violently. The lights flicker and die. The control room smells of diesel, wet steel, and fear. Men struggle to stay upright. One sailor bangs his head on a bulkhead, groaning. Another vomits from the spinning, crushing pressure. Yet everyone remains at their station. Discipline is their only lifeline. Kretsch grits his teeth and yells, "All ahead full, we'll ride it out at maximum depth." The engines roar, the boat lurches downward again. 127 meters, 128. The ceiling of pressure feels like it is pressing from all sides. Bulkheads tremble. The U-boat groans under the strain, and then a new sound cuts through the chaos. A faint, irregular tapping, not the enemy, not a depth charge, a signal weak but unmistakable, Morse code. The freighter. Kretsch's stomach twists. They thought she was done. They thought the kill was clean. Yet here she is, still alive enough to transmit. Every dot, every dash, is another pin on a map for the destroyers and aircraft above. Another chain tightening around them. Coordinates again, the hydrophone operator mutters, voice trembling. The realization crashes over Kretsch like a wave. Their triumph, the perfect kill, has been transformed into a trap. The very ship they celebrated has become their executioner. Another depth charge detonates directly above. The shock rattles instruments, hurls men across the control room. Sparks fly from damaged electrical lines. The boat shudders violently. Men cling to rails, mouths open in silent screams. Kretsch grips the periscope mount. He feels the cold, unforgiving reality of the Atlantic. The hunter has become the hunted, and all because of a single, stubborn freighter refusing to die quietly. Every pulse from that radio is a breadcrumb leading the enemy straight to them. Another series of pings from sonar confirms it. The destroyers are closing in, triangulating their position with terrifying precision. Time is slipping away, each second a countdown toward destruction. Kretsch looks around the control room. Men are pale, sweat-streaked, every movement measured. He knows what is coming next. The Atlantic is about to decide their fate. And for the first time, U-558's crew realizes that in war, a victory can turn into a nightmare in an instant. The sea above is an indifferent gray mirror, betraying nothing of the hunt below. Inside U-558, the air is thick with steam, smoke, and the coppery tang of blood. Men move with robotic precision, eyes wide, muscles coiled like springs. Every creak of steel, every subtle vibration sends a jolt of terror through the crew. Kretsch grips the conning tower hatch handle, knuckles white. His mind races, calculations, evasions, possibilities, but the truth is inescapable. The freighter's persistent transmissions have painted them in neon for every destroyer and aircraft in the sector. They are trapped. Depth, he asks, voice steady but strained. 130 meters, hull integrity marginal, replies the latender engineer. The words hang in the compartment like a guillotine blade. Another explosion, closer. The entire hull shudders, the metal singing under the immense pressure. The boat lurches violently, throwing men into bulkheads. Instruments topple, valves burst with a hiss of steam. Emergency lights flicker. Panic gnaws at the edges of their discipline. A sailor collapses near the periscope, coughing and clutching his ribs. Kretsch ignores him for the moment. Every second is a decision between survival and oblivion. The destroyers are no longer hunting. They are shaping the battlefield, anticipating each maneuver. Then the hydrophone operator stiffens, headset pressed to his ear. Multiple contacts, converging fast, port side. Kretsch's stomach knots. They are not just above, they are all around. The sonar pulses are relentless, precise, merciless. Every transmission from the freighter has guided the enemy closer. Silent running, stay calm, Kretsch commands. The engines die, fans cut. The boat becomes a ghost, drifting in the crushing dark. Even breathing seems too loud. Men hold it in, lungs trembling. Another pattern of depth charges detonates, closer, more violent than before. The hull groans, rivets complaining under stress. Water sprays through hatches, mixing with sweat and blood. The air is a furnace of fear and chemical tang from damaged batteries. Kretsch moves to the periscope mount, daring to look upward. Nothing but grey water. No horizon, no light, no mercy. Then an explosion directly above. The hull bends, a bone-crushing, metallic scream echoing through every compartment. Men are thrown off their feet. Someone cries out. Kretsch feels the floor tilt under him, hears the snapping of pipe supports, feels the bite of seawater seeping through a cracked bulkhead. Emergency procedures kick in automatically. Bulkheads sealed, pumps run at full capacity, men scramble to contain flooding, fumes choke the air, every heartbeat is loud in the silence between the next blast. Through it all, the freighter continues to transmit. Weak, intermittent, but precise, every dot and dash is another hand pointing the enemy straight to their hiding place. Kretsch's jaw tightens. They had killed her or thought they had, and yet, in her dying moments, she is orchestrating their near destruction. Another series of pings echoes through the hull. The destroyers are closing the triangle. Any misstep now, any failure of nerve or steel, and U-558 will be crushed beneath the Atlantic. Kretsch glances at the men, exhausted, battered, fearful. Their fate rests not on skill or luck, but on the stubborn defiance of a single, damaged freighter. A muffled thump reverberates through the boat, one more, then another. They are tightening the net. The hunt is about to end. And Kretsch knows this may be the final moment before the Atlantic decides. The first light of dawn struggles through low-hanging clouds, painting the Atlantic a pale, deceptive gray. Above, the water seems calm, serene, almost innocent. But below, U-558 quivers in the crushing embrace of the ocean, a steel coffin teetering on the edge of destruction. Kretsch moves through the control room with deliberate calm, though every muscle screams. He glances at the gauges, depth 135 meters, hull integrity critical. Every shudder is now a message. The ocean is punishing them for overconfidence. The perfect kill, the freighter they had celebrated hours ago, has become a weapon against them. A sharp ping from the hydrophone operator interrupts the taut silence. Surface ship, port side, closing fast. Kretsch's lips tighten. Every coordinate the freighter sent has drawn the hunters closer. Destroyers and aircraft are converging with surgical precision. They are no longer hunting randomly, they are hunting with certainty. The first pattern of depth charges hits with terrifying proximity. The hull groans as steel bends and rivets pop. Emergency lights flicker. Water sprays from compromised pipes. Men are thrown across the control room. A cry of pain echoes from the forward compartment. "Brace for impact," Kretsch shouts. The second pattern detonates. The concussion rattles the submarine violently. Men cling to whatever is fixed. Instruments smash. A flood of seawater and steam sprays from hatches. The boat lurches violently, listing to starboard. Through it all, the freighter still transmits, weak, intermittent, yet insistent. Each Morse code signal is a lure, a beacon getting the hunters directly to them. Kretsch's stomach knots. The reality is inescapable. They had assumed victory too early. The kill was never clean. Another ping, another depth charge, each explosion closer than the last. The Atlantic presses in with the weight of inevitability. Men are pale, exhausted, trembling. Every breath is measured, every heartbeat loud in the oppressive silence between explosions. Kretsch's hand rests on the chart table. He knows they cannot outrun this. The destroyers have triangulated perfectly. Every maneuver is anticipated. The freighter's survival, her stubborn refusal to sink quietly, has sealed their fate. A final pattern of depth charges detonates directly above. The boat convulses violently. Bulkheads shudder. Water sprays into the control room. Men cry out, bracing against the walls. The air grows toxic with fumes from damaged batteries. Kretsch closes his eyes briefly, listening to the creaking, groaning metal. For a moment, he imagines the freighter's operator still alive somewhere in the Atlantic, tapping out the last of his signals. Each dot, each dash, had become a weapon in itself, turning triumph into tragedy. The boat shudders one last time, almost as if the ocean itself is taking a final breath, and then a deafening silence. For a brief, terrifying moment, it seems the U-boat has survived. The depth charges have stopped. The sonar pulses fade. The Atlantic lies still, grey, unyielding. But the danger is far from over. Every man aboard knows it. Kretsch opens his eyes and stares into the faint red glow of the emergency lamps. They are battered, yes, but they are alive, for now. And somewhere above, the freighter, burned, broken, and barely afloat, has orchestrated a near disaster that will haunt them forever. The perfect kill had become the perfect trap. Hours drag on like centuries. The grey Atlantic stretches endlessly, a silent witness to the near destruction beneath. U-558 drifts at periscope depth, battered, leaking, but still intact. The destroyers and aircraft have pulled back, regrouping for another strike. For now, the immediate danger has passed, but the lesson has been etched in steel and blood. Kretsch stands on the bridge as the U-boat surfaces under the weak morning light. Men emerge slowly from below, faces pale, eyes hollow. They are exhausted, trembling, yet alive. The Atlantic is calm above, but each wave seems a reminder of how close they came to annihilation. Damage report, Kretsch orders, voice hoarse. Fires out aft, minor flooding contained. Hull stressed but holding, comes the reply. Relief is thin and brittle, tempered by exhaustion. Kretsch scans the horizon with binoculars. Nothing. The hunters have vanished, temporarily, but he knows they will return. The freighter's transmissions have painted a target on their backs that cannot be erased. Below decks, the men move silently, tending to injuries, repairing damage, checking systems. Each small task is a battle against fatigue, fear, and the lingering taste of salt water and smoke. They exchange few words. None are needed. The Atlantic has spoken, and they have listened. Kretsch reflects on the trap they fell into. They had celebrated a perfect kill, confident in their training, their skill, their luck. But the freighter, stubborn, burning, refusing to sink quietly, had rewritten the rules. Each Morse code signal, each faint burst of power from the crippled ship, had become a weapon they could not see until it was almost too late. The crew's triumph had turned into a nightmare in minutes, a vivid reminder of war's unpredictability. Kretsch knows now that the line between hunter and hunted is razor-thin. One miscalculation, one overconfidence, and even a seasoned U-boat can be brought to the brink of destruction. He turns to his crew, seeing the fear, exhaustion, and relief mirrored in their faces. No words can capture the gravity of what they've endured. Some will never forget. Some will never fully recover from the terror, the realization that a single, wounded freighter had almost spelled their end. Kretsch looks back toward the coordinates of the freighter, barely visible in the morning haze. She is dying, but she has won a silent, devastating victory. A lesson in resilience, in cunning, in the cruel twists of war. He whispers to himself, almost reverently, "The perfect kill and yet the perfect trap." The Atlantic stretches on, grey and endless, indifferent to the lives it holds and the lessons it delivers. U-558 limps forward, wounded but alive, carrying its crew, and the memory of the freighter that refused to die into the uncertain horizon.